Hi guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and we're going to start something a little bit new. So I'm going to be doing a new series of weekly videos and I'm going to be looking at all different issues which affect women, how women are portrayed in the media and the press, and I'm going to be looking at different issues that quite often have a detrimental effect, not just necessarily to women but to us all. So I'm going to be covering things such as gaslighting, infidelity, online dating, portrayal of women in the media, and I'll be posting on these issues regularly. So this is my first video in this series. And I'm going to be talking to you about a legal process that's currently often being used to silence women and really to strip them of their power. And this is non-disclosure agreements, so otherwise known as NDAs. So I'm going to be looking at how NDAs are being misused by rich guys and powerful people in order to protect them from public scrutiny. So for those of you who are not sure exactly what it is, an NDA is a legally binding contract. So its supposed use was to protect confidentiality of corporate information and to stop people who work for somebody else disclosing confidential information, and so it creates a legal enforceable contract between the two parties. So if you break an NDA, you can be sued and you can get a fine which could be from the tens of thousands to the millions of pounds. The NDA usually stipulates an amount, but recently rich people and quite often rich men have been using this to curtail the power of poorer people and to stop them from talking about things which helps to protect them from public scrutiny. Now, famous examples of people that have used NDAs are Sir Phillip, Harvey Weinstein, and everybody's favourite paedophile, R. Kelly. But what really piqued my interest was Paul Hollywood, which, if you don't know who he is, he's the main baker, the guy off Great British Bake Off. And so he tried to get his partner to sign an NDA last week. And it really got me thinking, because I thought, okay, lots of NDAs are used when the person's already done something wrong and they're trying to pay the person off, and they give them an amount of money not to say anything to anybody, and they make them sign an NDA, which is how Sir Phillip used them, and also how Harvey Weinstein has used them, and allegedly as well R. Kelly. But this was really interesting because this NDA was to be used before anything had even happened. So basically Paul Hollywood was married for about 20 years. He cheated on his wife, I think probably about 2013, 2014, with an American chef that he was working on a TV show with. He and his wife got back together, and then again he met his newest girlfriend, who's called Summer, and they've been dating for about 2 years. He and his wife are currently going through a divorce. Obviously, during this divorce, his wife has spoken to the media, she's been on GMTV, and she's been quite vocal about what's happening within their relationship and also her treatment at the hands of Paul Hollywood. So Paul's girlfriend, Summer, is 24, so she's quite a young girl, and Paul handed her an NDA and asked her to sign it, and the NDA was banning her from speaking publicly at all about their relationship. In addition to this, she was not allowed to speak to friends or family or about their relationship or anything to do with him or his family to anyone. Not her friends, not her family, not her sisters, nobody at all. They met when she was just 22, when she worked at his local pub. Now, I have to give full props to Summer, because upon him handing her this non-disclosure agreement, she told him to do one. And she said it's over for good, and she was furious with his controlling behaviour. Now, aside from the fact that there's a 30-year age gap between the two, Summer's a young girl. And as far as I'm concerned, it's absolutely disgusting that Paul sought to prevent her from talking at all with the signing of this NDA. And he and his lawyers tried to pressurise her into signing it, and they pretty much told her, it's no big deal, it's standard procedure these days, just have a read through and sign it. And so this is what he wanted her to sign. He wanted her to sign something banning her speaking about any private and confidential information. And private and confidential information, according to him, includes, but is not limited to, any information, whether true or false, about their relationship, about Paul Hollywood's divorce, about Paul Hollywood's relationship with Alec, about either of their private lives or their sex life together, about their relationships with their friends or their family, and about each other's personal, financial or business affairs. It was also so restrictive that it banned even any public discussion of the existence of the NDA. So not only was she not allowed to talk about literally anything about her life or his life in any way, shape or form, she also wasn't allowed to say, I've signed an NDA, that's why I can't talk about it. And it said either of them would be able to apply for a court injunction against the other should a story about their relationship hit the papers. And if that wasn't enough, he wanted her to waive any rights she might have under the Human Rights Act or the European Convention of Human Rights. Just wow. Absolutely wow. So Paul tried to badger Summer into signing, and he was telling her it's no big deal and some of my family are going to sign it too. That's up to them. And when she refused, he got his lawyers to try and ring her and badger her and convince her into signing. Now this was unbelievably restrictive and more or less curtailed her right to speak to even her friends or family about anything that was happening within her relationship. As we know as women, what do we do when we're unsure about things? And really, what does anyone do when they're unsure about things or they want advice? They speak to their mum, they speak to their sisters, they speak to their friends, and they get advice on things. Now, if you're a public figure, things may hit the press. That's part and parcel of being a public figure and having the benefits that celebrity brings. But if you're not planning, Paul, on behaving badly, as you've quite often done previously, why should she need to sign something so restrictive? So what I'm now going to outline for you are the 5 reasons that I think that Paul Hollywood was so out of order to try to force Summer into signing this and into basically waving away all of her right. We're given human rights so that we can't be exploited. To ask someone to sign them away is frankly astonishing to me, just astonishing. So the first reason is that Paul is a well-known cheat. So what he was expecting to be able to do was to date this girl. They're not married, they're not engaged, they're just dating. And then no matter how he behaved or no matter what he did, she would have no opportunity to speak to either her friends or her family or anybody at all about what was happening within her relationship. And the only thing that keeps people sane, I think, when someone's been cheating or you suspect someone of cheating is being able to pick over all the evidence and, as Ebird likes to do, overanalyze the situation and find out what do we think's going on and come to conclusions. You need your family and your friends to help you do this. Reason 2 is that he tried to browbeat her into signing, and he more or less said, well, if you're not going to sell any stories, then what's the big deal? She might just genuinely want to chat. And also, let's be fair, the internet and the newspaper come up with stories whether you sell them to them or not. People watch you, people look at your social media, people infer things from your behaviour. So stories do not just come about from one person giving a story. Reason 3, and this is the worst one of all, he got his senior legal team to call her and to try and convince her it's no big deal, it's standard, everybody signs these days. No, they don't. And yes, it is a massive deal. Signing away your human rights is a massive deal. But they didn't offer her any legal advice. In fact, what should have happened is they should have said to her, go and get independent legal advice, have the document looked over, and when you're happy to sign it, then get back to us. But that didn't happen. They just tried to ride roughshod over her and over her concerns and try to convince her, just sign it, it's no big deal. Even if she signed it and then changed her mind, the moment she signed it, she would have then been bound to these terms for life. That's a long time. Reason 4 is, Paul, you're not a massive celebrity, so you're not so big that unless you behave badly, people aren't bothered by what you do. So it's not like the Kardashians or someone along those lines when people just want to know what do they do at home, what arguments potentially are they having in the house, what's happening on a general everyday basis because they're so famous. Paul Hollywood, people barely know who you are, and lots of us who know who you are wish they didn't. So he's acting as if he's some massive celebrity. And Paul, if you're looking to behave, not just in terms of infidelity, but generally within the relationship, there would be no need for this NDA because there would be nothing to come out. You're a well-known cheat, and the chances are at some point you'll cheat again. And you just want to make sure if that does happen, you're as protected from anybody knowing your wrongdoings as possible. You're not bothered about the mental health or well-being of this girl. You're just bothered about yourself and interested in the preservation of your own reputation. Paul, your reputation's already wrecked, so I wouldn't worry about that. And then reason 5 is when she refused to sign, Paul then very nastily started on a media campaign against her, insinuating that she was, in other words, going to plan on selling stories, and if she had no bad intentions, why didn't she just sign? And Summer's statement was as follows: I'm very disappointed and distressed by the false and highly defamatory statements that Paul has made about me online since our breakup. I've had no alternative but to instruct my solicitors to pursue legal proceedings against Paul in order to obtain vindication. I have never courted publicity over my relationship with Paul, and I am deeply disappointed that the relationship has ended this way. So whilst she made that statement, which was to the point, Paul Hollywood says, thank you all for your messages. I've been receiving and reading them, and it means a lot. Paul mustn't have seen my message. He said, my silence on any matters is not a sign of weakness or agreement of what's been said. Merely, I prefer a quiet life away from my day job. And then he says rather cryptically, I've never understood anyone who makes money selling stories and courting the pat. It saddens me. So he's insinuating that that's what Summer has been doing. And I'm pretty sure if she had, you'd be giving us the details in order to vindicate yourself. His lawyer then said, I asked Summer to sign an NDA as is standard practice in order to protect Paul's family and their private lives. Summer insisted she had no intention of selling any stories to the press and declined. I think that her refusal to discuss or sign it caused concern, so it's not entirely surprising they have gone their separate ways. So in other words, it's so concerning if somebody doesn't sign away all of the rights that we're given by law under the Human Rights Act. It's so concerning to Paul that you don't wave away these wholesale for the rest of your life, that's the end of the relationship. Honestly, what a scumbag. Paul has a history of treating women not massively well, and he now seeks to protect his quite battered reputation by silencing anyone who gets into a relationship with him. He didn't try to get her to sign this a couple of years ago when they got together, but the moment his divorce was through with his wife. If it was so standard, why did it take him 2 years to do it? Because he realises his reputation is in tatters. So at the moment, the government are looking into NDAs and looking at the misuse of them, because there are lots of women up and down the country and lots of people in powerful / powerless relationships tricked, coerced or convinced into signing these as if it's not a big deal. It really is. But what concerns me is, at what cost? Where does this all end? R. Kelly was able to get away with his shenanigans by making people sign these sorts of things, including staff, including tour dancers, managers and so on. Harvey Weinstein had members of staff and people who he abused sign NDAs, and he used to give people derisory amounts of money and then they'd sign one of these lifetime NDAs so that if anything were ever to come out, his victims were scared witless into silence. Now, I'm not saying that what Paul Hollywood has done is anything on the level of R. Kelly or Harvey Weinstein, but it just shows you that this general use of them empowers usually men and strips people, quite often women, of any power or even of their general, normal, legal right. So guys, let me know what you think about this. Do you think that NDAs are reasonable? Would you sign an NDA? Or do you think, as I do, that a corporate tool meant for business is now being misused by powerful men or to keep their reputations intact? Guys, let me know what you think, and also let me know what are the kind of topics you're interested in for my new set of weekly videos. If you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And I'm now branching out on the different topics that I'll be talking about. You'll still have your old Love Island update, but I really want to look at other topics and other things that affect us as well. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I'll see you soon. Ciao for now.